Hello everybody, peace, welcome to another episode, and today I'm going to be talking about limerence. Again, let's dive right in, bismillah.
From beautiful seas to flourishing legacies.
So I believe I've created a couple of videos about the topic of limerence, and for those of you who are listening to this for the first time, limerence, or hearing the word for the first time, or you've heard it before, what I'm talking about when I'm talking about limerence is this idea of it's the fantasy. It's thinking about someone or something in a way that is not reciprocated, and sometimes it is reciprocated, but it's really this idealization of a thing, right? And I know there's a difference of opinion. A lot of people, when they're talking about the topic of limerence, it's towards a person and it's unreciprocated according to most beliefs. But I believe that limerence is a kind of addiction, and it falls into the kind of same categories of what addictions are. So limerence. Now, there is this idea that, for example, if you're married or if you're not married and you're constantly thinking about someone, there is this it's sinful, it's wrong, there is something wrong with you. You really need to fight it with every part of you, and I believe all of like the part about fighting it, right? So not really fighting it so much, but being aware of it and taking the measures to do something about it, right? You can watch my other video when I talk a little bit about that, and there are so many layers to why we limerate in the first place. The core of it is when there is to do with a wound, right? It's normally a childhood wound. It's something that was a need that was unmet by us, and there's almost always the theme of abandonment attached to it, right? Hence, we fall for partners and we fall for things. We do things which are in a way that is not realistic, and we create this whole world inside of our heads, believing that this is, real for us at least, whereas the other person is not experiencing obviously is not experiencing any part of it at all. Now I want to bring a little dimension to this, right? So whenever we fall, and most of us, many of us have probably fallen into this one part of our lives or not, right? It's this falling into limerence when we begin to think about someone constantly. And it isn't just for someone who isn't married, it could be for someone who is married. And the sad thing is, a lot of people who fall into limerence when they are married, they will follow that desire, right? Follow that fantasy, and then they will act it out in a way that destroys their marriage, and in a way that is not according to Islam, right? So, and what tends to happen most of the time when this person goes with the fantasy object, right? Or the fantasy object could be a thing as well. What happens is that when reality hits, there is 100% chance that that relationship is finished, and the feeling that you had towards the limerent object is completely diminished, right? And along with it, so is everything that you held in value, including your marriage, your relationship, and probably the children as well, right? And that is probably the tragic situations. If you watch things which are on television shows, read books, they are romanticized in a way that, the wife fell in love with someone else, and then the husband fell in love with whatever it is. You can think of a story, I'm sure you can relate, and then this drama happened, and then there was like a true crime thing that happened from it, and that's happened many times. But the point is, it ends in tragedy. Anytime that we follow a limerent object, especially when we are in a situation which is not designed for this, right? So you're married, for example, and then you go with the limerent object, it ends in tragedy. It ends in tragedy. However, that tragedy is shown, right? Worst case scenario, it gets really bad. So the thing which I wanted to present to you today is that when we are limerating over someone or something, there is a reason behind it. I talked about the wounds. We went deep. We went into the abandonment wound. We talked about all of that. Most of the time it is that, right? But there is something else that is here as well, which is so important. And there is a reason and there is a time that we will notice ourselves being drawn to that limerent object more so than other times. And a lot of the time it is when there's something happening in our lives that is uncomfortable. We are stressed. We are in a survival response. We are coping. And then this limerent object comes. And of course, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, that's why we love movies. That's why we love reading books. And that's why we love listening to certain songs, because we can escape, right? So limerence is a form of escapism. It's a form of disassociation to how we are truly feeling. Now, the limerent object itself is not random for us as individuals. What happens is that the things which we are constantly thinking about, it says a lot about who we are and why we are drawn to them. Now, there is this ideology, there is this thought that any limerent object is dangerous, we should never think about them, and we should just wipe our hands with them and beat ourselves up until it's non-existent anymore, right? And that's the way to deal with it. So the controversial thing I wanted to offer to you is that think about when you are limerent over something or someone, what is it about that person? What not them as a person, but what is it about that person that is drawing you to them? And we have to be real here, because these things, limerence, is something that is happening. It is not spoken about, and it's something very real, and it is destroying marriages. It is destroying chances of getting married. It is destroying relationships, and we have to talk about it, right? Now, the limerent object has something that you are drawn to. It could be so many things. It could be something like they make you feel seen, right? They make you feel important in some way, make you feel seen. They remind you of something that you wish that you could do, right? So for example, I do believe that limerence can also be something that is non-romantic. So you might be constantly thinking about someone, thinking about them, and there is not a romantic tang to it at all, but they are constantly on your mind, right? And when we stop and pause for a second and wonder, why do I keep thinking about this person? Why do I feel so dysregulated around this person? I'm not attracted to them in any way. There is no part of me that is like, even the thought of it is whatever, right? But what happens is this person has something, a lesson that we need to learn, right? Whether that is that we need this thing that our partner is not providing for us, and that means a long conversation with our partner, right? And fixing something in the relationship. Or it could be something that we are not providing for ourselves, but it's really rooted in neglect of some kind. There is something that is neglected in your life, in our life, right? It could be something that is creatively neglected. It might be someone who is expressing themselves in a certain way, and you can't stop thinking about how they do this and they do that, and you begin to feel a certain way, and then you think, you know what, hang on, it's because I want to do that, and I'm not letting myself do that because I am afraid, or I feel too guilty, or I have these limiting beliefs, or whatever it is, right? Or it could be something that, this person has a very caring way of talking to me, and I want my spouse to talk to me in the same way, right? And that is something that is neglected around you, whether it is something for yourself or your significant other is not providing for you, or your friendships are not providing for you. And what happens is this, right? When we become aware of this feeling that we have, and we understand the nuances of why we feel this way, what we are missing, what will happen is most of the time that limerent object has done its purpose, and they are literally like, the feeling is completely gone. It's gone because realities come, right? Your realities come like, hang on, it was never you. it was me, right? And it's kind of like this awakening that happens. But then what happens with it, because why don't we do that then if it's so easy trying to figure it out? The reason why is because limerence is like a layer which is on top of something that is painful inside of us. And then when that limerent object goes, because there's almost like a euphoria that we feel when we think about that limerent object, when that limerent object has served its purpose, gone, you understand what the reason was behind it, and you become wise to it, and you know how to deal with it now. What happens is there's this deep, profound grief and this sadness of the fact that you didn't get what it was that you so needed, and you try to find it in this person. And then there's like the reality, actually, this is how I really feel, and I was coping by hoping that this person would save me in some way, even though they have no idea that I even feel this way about this object, right? Not even the person, but just this object. So yeah, that's the controversial way that there's a message in every feeling we have, even if it is an obsessive addiction or a feeling towards someone or something, that is telling us that there is something neglected inside of us, and it's a time to turn inward. And it's not always inside of us, but it could be something from around us. The people who are supposed to be close to us are not giving us what we need, and hence it's coming out in this form of limerence. And it's important to have a conversation with those people and then meet our own needs so we can fight this painful feeling which is under limerence. Not fight it, sorry. We can feel the painful emotion which is under limerence, which is driving it. And once we face that wound, that neglect, that whatever the wound is, that need that was not met for you, it almost makes you this powerful force of yourself, right? And you become so strong, and you begin to become wise about certain things. So when someone kind of enters into your head, instantly you're like, hang on a minute, what's been going on? Let me retrace back, and this is how I'm really feeling, right? And the more you practice it, the more you will begin to become aware of it. And awareness really is the key, because awareness is one of the most powerful things that we can have to grow and to heal and to do anything. Because once we become aware of our subconscious behaviors, we are no longer controlled by them. And what we can do is we can have a certain control of how we act in the world, instead of being submitting to them and submitting to our pain overall. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I have a free downloadable for you. It's from my book, The Woke Writer. It's all about letting go. And thank you again, and have a beautiful and blessed day, everyone. Peace.